lessons the past year has brought us to inform our lives moving forward. And as you know, I don't just advocate for this work as a spiritual leader, but I engage in it as well. Over these past years, these many years, it seems, I've brought you on Erev Rosh Hashanah a list of things that I have learned over the past year based on a particular experience that I had over the past year. And this year, like most, I have a number of things that I could have chosen. There was the obvious turning 50. What was that? And the wisdom that comes from age and experience. It's also harder to read this. I realized when I printed this out, I had to go up a font size. There's the 20th anniversary of my ordination. Though if you recall, 10 years ago, I shared what I learned from my 10 years in the rabbinate. And I think a lot of the same lessons are still there. I probably could have saved myself a lot of work if you didn't remember that one, the 10 years ago. I think they carry forward. There's the lessons that I learned from the chaplaincy program that I did this past year at the hospital. And of course, the decision I made to leave that program before I finished it. That still may come at a later time, the lessons learned there. But no, this year I chose something else, something maybe more prosaic perhaps, something tangible, something visible, something that we all perhaps have an experience of, something that is right outside these windows, our courtyard project. Yeah, I chose the courtyard project and our parking lot. I feel like, The Serious Man. Have you seen that movie? Yeah, somebody saw that. The Young Rabbi, the parking lot. No, this isn't a fundraising pitch or anything like that, but this is just a reflection. It'd be easy to say that this undertaking right outside these windows that you saw perhaps coming in is just a building project. But all throughout, I've thought about how this project, this courtyard project, is really an outer physical manifestation of our values, our concerns, and our hopes for this community. And so on this Rosh Hashanah 5784, I'll present to you the 7 things that I have learned from our TBH courtyard and parking lot project. The parking lot. So I gotta watch a scene. Number 1, safety and welcoming are not mutually exclusive. Right, as you're probably aware, perhaps the initial impetus for our courtyard project was safety and security. And the fence that surrounds is funded in part by a grant from the federal government that is designed for nonprofits who are at particular risk. And as a Jewish community, we unfortunately qualify. This fence aims to incorporate best practices when it comes to security to create a 2-tiered entry to our building, and also to provide one entry point, one place of entry and egress. Now, I should say that we have not been the target of any direct threats or incidents, save for one swastika painting a number of years ago on our property. But we're living in a time, especially post-Pittsburgh, the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue, when anti-Semitism is on the rise. The rise of an increasing visibility and normalization of white supremacy, particularly during the last presidential administration, has led to a rise in rhetoric of anti-Semitism, both in real life and online. I've experienced it on my social media. And this is not something that we should take lightly. At the same time, we have to remember that we do not or should not sacrifice inclusivity and welcoming for the sake of safety. Indeed, by designing this the way that we did, the security measures seem really secondary to creating a welcoming space that we can use. That was intentional, because what we've created here is something that provides safety without seeming like it does, allowing us to rely less on outward manifestations of security, like law enforcement or the presence of firearms on our property. And perhaps you might not have even realized that a security grant and plan was behind the fence, and to me, that is a success. We need to be mindful and safe, but we should not sacrifice being welcoming and inclusive to all. Number 2, challenges can and must lead to creativity. Since the beginning of the COVID lockdown, we have had to fundamentally change how we do things as a community. It's a process that's still ongoing. We are still figuring out how to navigate this new reality. We've invested time and money into ensuring hybrid services, technology to be multi-access, and to have the best practices when it comes to the communal health of our community. And this is something that we know that we've all had to do this. We've all had to adapt in the many aspects of our lives. And some of those adaptations that we did just for the sake of COVID are here to stay, because while they might have initially been a reaction to COVID, they ultimately have made things easier. The ability to have meetings and hold classes online, for example, has expanded so many opportunities. My Washington State rabbinic colleagues and I, for example, are now in the third year of an online-only Introduction to Judaism class that we've averaged 80 to 100 participants each year, and is taught by 30 different rabbis from around the state. And while the movement on the grant and the parking lot was already in place when the pandemic began, COVID became another motivation for the project. Right? Outdoor gatherings have become that much more important and attractive, and so this became another way that we can accommodate our community. And overall, we could do more programs and events for all ages outside. We're even expanding our Wi-Fi into the courtyard. It's not done yet, so we can continue to be multi-access even when we're outside. And I have noticed too that shifts in attendance at services have not returned to what it was before the pandemic. At one point, I thought that at this point, we would be most people in a sanctuary on a Friday night with a few people on Zoom, but that's not the case. And so how we do community, Jewish community, has changed, and we face that not with resignation, but with creativity. And the courtyard is a part of that creative response that we must have when we're engaged in facing new circumstances. Right? It's a lesson that we all must learn in our own lives, challenging that it is, no matter how challenging it is to have to accept that there is no going back to the way things were. There's only moving forward into what will be. And yet when we remember that moving into this change allows us to be creative in ways that we might not have been before, we can be excited for the new possibilities and tap into our creative selves that we might not have realized was there or lay dormant. We can be more fully creatively expressive. Number 3, the mezuzah is one of our most important mitzvot. Now, while the fence, on the one hand, serves the purpose of trying to prevent harm and is therefore a way of turning inward, as it were, at the same time, it expands our visibility here in Olympia, and it is a way of facing out. And I've always felt that one of the ways that we combat the forces of hate is by committing even more to our Jewish traditions in our community and living more visibly Jewish. Because Jewish history has told us over and over again that we have continually outlived those who have sought to do us harm. Earlier this summer, when we had our summer celebration of our community and of my birthday and of my tenure here at TBH, I presented the congregation with a gift, a mezuzah that we will put on the gate, the new gate that we are constructing. In the Shema, in our liturgy that we just chanted earlier, we're told, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day, and press them upon your children. Recite them at home and on the road, when you lie down and when you get up. You shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Now, these most sacred words in this declaration that we recite, drawn from the Torah, we're told to inscribe them on the doorposts of our homes, and that's where we put the mezuzah, the little case that has the inscription inside. But the Torah and the liturgy also speaks of our gates, right? She'arecha. And so now that we have a gate, it's only fitting that we put a mezuzah on it, and specifically outwardly declare that this is a Jewish space. The mezuzah, while a direct commandment from the Torah, carries with it multiple meanings, right? By putting these words on our homes, we're creating a sort of amulet, which provides a sense of protection and sanctity to our living spaces. But the mezuzah is also this outward form of Jewish identity, of identifying to the outside world that this is a Jewish home, a Jewish space. In this age, we should be more vocal and more visible. And it feels to me that the practice of mezuzah then becomes that much more important. So we will have a mezuzah on our gate here, and I invite you, if you do not have a mezuzah on your home, to put one there, and I'll come and I'll help you, I'll hang it with you. Let us honor our Jewish heritage by declaring it publicly. Number 4, the Jewish community is changing, so we must plan accordingly. The story of how we came about the parking lot and the courtyard was not due to some grand strategic plan that we had to take over more real estate in downtown Olympia, but it was an opportunity that presented itself to us that we could not pass up. When the lot went on sale and then when it was sold to another party, we had a limited opportunity to purchase this lot, to make it our own before, at best, we would just lose our parking privileges. At worst, we would have a building next to ours right now. But the opportunity was not just to find a place to park, right, but a means to perpetuate Jewish life in Olympia for years to come. For this parking lot provides a source of income for us, for the congregation, and an investment in the future for this community to develop or whatever we choose to do with it. We have to be mindful there are trends across the Jewish community where congregations are suffering from declining affiliation, a trend that we are actually avoiding, which is incredible. We are continuing to grow as a community, new membership, new households, new people coming to this community, and we're blessed with great support. At the same time, the ability to plan for the future is so necessary. We Jews, while we're always mindful of the past, we've always also been future focused to what will be, right? Lador vador, from generation to generation, thinking forward as well as mindful of the past. This act, this courtyard, this parking lot is now a gift to future generations to meet the needs of this Jewish community or the needs of others, the greater Olympia community, depending on what is done with it. And this is a way that we should approach all things that we do, right? Taking care of our needs and being mindful of the legacy that we leave for others. In everything that we do, what is the legacy that we are leaving for us? How can we hold ourselves accountable to those who come after us? How could we answer for our actions to those who will follow? That is a kavanah, an intention, a powerful motivator for assessing what we do in the present. And so we plan, but as we also know in number 5, humans plan and God laughs. Der Mensch talkt und Gott lacht. As you can see, the project is not yet finished, right? Although we're getting close, we're getting very close. That metal fencing actually went in today. Though initial hopes were that it would be completed by the time of our summer festival or then by the high holidays, things have a way of not going according to plan. As the Yiddish proverb says, we can plan, but sometimes there are greater forces at work that cause it so that we are not able to get done what we hope to do. There were so many moving parts in this project that it should come as no surprise. I know anyone who's been engaged with construction or renovation projects know that things don't always go according to schedule. Life has a way of thwarting our best intentions. And the beauty of this proverb is that it states a truth that we all understand, right? It's a norm rather than an aberration or a deviation, one that we all recognize that very often things do not go according to plan. But the thing about the proverb as well that speaks truth is that while it says humans plan, it says God laughs. That is, the source of the frustration, the delay, the change is beyond us, just as we posit God is beyond us, right? Whatever one's theology or idea of God, we can understand that God is beyond our comprehension. God is not the same as humans. God is greater than each one of us. So this proverb positing meaning that these sources of frustrations are just simply sometimes beyond us, right? Because very often when things go wrong in our lives, we look for direct causality, right? We seek direct causality. If only X didn't happen, then everything would be okay. Or everything was going smoothly until Y, right? Because we think that if we find a direct cause, then we have control, that we can have some semblance of control. But that's the thing. We are never in control. There are so many moving parts, so many factors that go into our lives or any one plan in our lives that to find one specific reason for a particular outcome, it's an impossibility. And sometimes when we look for a cause, and perhaps even in times when we find it, it doesn't change where we are, where we end up. The only choice sometimes is just to accept that humans plan and God laughs. And then we plan again, this time with humility. And because of this, we turn to number 6, and that is learning the value of savlanut, or patience. Right? We have had to be patient when it comes to this courtyard project, which is a good reminder that patience, savlanut, is one of the midot, or character traits, that the Jewish school of Musar teaches. Right? Musar is a school of thought that builds spiritual practice around the development and cultivation of different character traits through learning and practice. And the courtyard is giving us practice in savlanut, in patience. Now, having been a rabbi now for 20 years and serving this congregation for 20 years, it provides a unique perspective. Looking back, I can see that we are not the same congregation now that we were then. And how that has come about is a 20-year process. I think to my own role or my own rabbinate here, like ideas that I had walking in, some I put into place soon after I arrived, some I abandoned, and some are coming to life only now, after years of connection and relationship building, planning, taking small steps. Right? One of the factors that we neglect often in our desire to make change, whether for ourselves or our communities, is time. It's time. Bringing people together takes time. Bringing others along with us on our quest takes time. Sometimes giving ourselves the space that we need to make change takes time. And with time comes the need for patience. You know, there's a story in our tradition I love about Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, it says in our tradition, didn't start studying. He was one of the great sages of the Talmud that he didn't start studying until he was 40 years old. And it says that once he was standing at the mouth of a well, and he said, "Who carved this hole in the stone? Like, who carved it? How did it get here?" And the others around him said it was from the water, the dripping water, that each drop of water slowly wore away the stone. And Rabbi Akiva saw this and he applied it to himself that if little drops of water could something so soft carve away something so hard, then words of Torah can penetrate my heart. And that when he started didn't matter, how long it took didn't matter, but just that idea that each step, each drop of water ultimately carved away the stone was a lesson in patience and perseverance. It may take time in the changes that we wish to make in our lives, but our hearts will eventually open. Patience and things will be made manifest. You know, one of the maxims that I think about often when it comes to community work or social justice is that we overestimate what can be accomplished in the short term and underestimate what can be accomplished in the long term. You know, it's hard sometimes, for we want to see change happen immediately. Sometimes it needs to happen immediately, and sometimes it does happen immediately. But when it doesn't, there is so often that possibility to become frustrated and impatient and want to walk away. But the Jewish midah of savlanut reminds us that with time and patience, change will most certainly come. And number 7, each one of us has our role to play. Since my office here at the synagogue looks right out on the courtyard, I've had a front row seat to the construction. And I admit it's been fascinating to watch. It's been so interesting to watch the various contractors and subcontractors come in and do their thing. And I wonder, although I doubt, that they had as much interest in watching me work as I had in watching them work. Maybe, I don't know. But it was just fascinating to watch so many different specialties and specialists, from the ones who poured the concrete, to the masons who built the columns, pilasters, to the fence contractor, to the asphalt, to the electricians who laid conduit and pulled the wire, and on, each one with their own unique role to play and skills to contribute. And it took each one to do their part to make this courtyard come together. Each one was necessary towards the completion of the whole. And it was a good reminder, watching over this courtyard project, especially in a society that creates hierarchies of skill sets, right? That everyone has their gifts. Everyone has their impact and their role to play. A favorite teaching of mine from Pirkei Avot, the ethical teachings from the Talmud, the ancient Jewish ethical text, is Al tehi baz l'chol adam, ve'al tehi maflig l'chol davar, she'en lecha adam she'en lo sha'ah, ve'en lecha davar she'en lo hamakom. Do not disparage anyone, and do not shun anything, for everyone has their hour, and everything has its place. Each one of us is unique, is special, is talented, and worthy. Each one of us has our hour. Each one of us has our place. All the more so does that become apparent when we join together to create something exceptional and special. And this is where the courtyard and the parking lot, the key lesson learned, is that this space is a vessel. It's just a vessel. It's a container. It's a vessel for us. It's a container for this community. Because in this community, each one of you has something to contribute, to share, to teach, and to learn. We are all uplifted by our diversity of experience, background, and ideas. And we work best as a community, as a congregation, when we are able to show up and show up for each other. Community, especially, I don't know, maybe especially Jewish community, is not easy. There will be people who disagree with you, who see things differently, who have different styles and different priorities. The organization as a whole here may let you down from time to time. I'm sure I have let you down from time to time. And yet it is so important to continue to commit and to connect. We grow by our experience and our encounters. And if we do not show up, then we are denying ourselves and others the opportunity to learn and to teach, to share, and to grow. We have something to teach each other, and we have something to learn from each other. When we don't show up, we deny that possibility. Since I arrived 20 years ago, we have grown our footprint here in Olympia, from 3 blocks away to here, to our addition, and now to our parking lot and a courtyard. And it is so exciting to see. But more than that construction, it is exciting to know that this place that we are creating is holy. Not just because of what it is, an extension of our synagogue, but because of what it represents: safety, creativity, Jewish identity, adaptability, accessibility, inclusivity, humility, patience, and community. May this holy space inspire us to grow in spirit, compassion, and love for us, for our Jewish community, and for all peoples.